I was supposed to go to school in Switzerland, right, with my dad's sister.
Really? I didn't know.
So growing up, there was a point in time, I think, when I was like preteen. The plan was for me to move, my sister and I, to move to Europe, study in Europe, whatnot. And I think I could have had an equally spectacular life taken that route. Even if I'd never met you guys, like I believe it could have been something cool as well.
Just think about that. You would not have any of the influence of Pasadena.
But I've done this.
Snippets?
Have you swallowed your ethics and made a decision
Yeah.
that fucked a lot of people over, but it was still the right decision?
Like what? Example.
Like I
In
drank.
my life, I had one decision that was ethically kind of ambiguous and kind of wrong, and I hurt a lot of people's feelings, but it benefited me.
Like what? Tell us.
Then you just have to live with it if you're okay with
I'm
that.
fine with it. I'm really fine with it, but
Well, then it's not an ethical dilemma
It's
for
not-
you.
it
it
if
was.
you-
I still think about it, going, God, what a
Well, there you go.
what a weasel you are.
So you do think about it.
What a insect. You know what I mean?
So you're not okay with it, really, deep down.
Maybe I'm not, but my life would have turned out completely different if
Can
I
we
didn't
know
make that
what it
decision.
was?
Yeah, I can tell you what it is.
Okay, yeah.
But it's a long story.
I don't care. I want to hear it.
We might as well. All right. So years ago, when I started doing stand up, right? I didn't know Pauly Shore or his family or anything like that. I just was at the Comedy Store, and the La Jolla Comedy Store in San Diego. It's its own culture back in the day, right? You know, it's just like, and it has nothing to do with really the Hollywood Comedy Store, right? In terms of management or who. Because you're a regular at the La Jolla Comedy Store doesn't necessarily mean you get any love in LA. You don't. They don't know who the fuck you are, this and that. So when I first came to the La Jolla Comedy Store, there was this guy named Fred Burns and Ron Clark and this guy named other people. I forget. I'll figure it out later. But they brought me in, right? So Fred Burns, this guy, he goes, move into my place, you know what I mean? Because you're struggling. And he gave me a lot of stage time and a lot of fatherly advice and how to do comedy and this and that. And you know, he really is the first guy to like kind of tell me that I am talented and tell me that you have a shot at this, kid, you know? And then 2 years down the road, I met Mitzi and Pauly and the gang, right? And they said one day, we're going to fire Fred Burns and everyone, even the waitresses, everyone at the club, and starting anew. But we want to keep you. And I go, okay, but you can't fuck with them anymore. You can't talk to them. You have to kind of join our...
It's fucked up of them
Army.
to give you an
Team.
ultimatum like that, though.
Power plays.
Yeah. And I go, okay. And then I had to go to Fred and those guys. I'm going to join this team. You know what I mean? And they're like, what? They fired everybody. So they started their own club. They wanted to start their own scene, right? But Mitzi goes, and so what happened one time was they opened up a different club. It didn't last, but Mitzi wanted me to go spy. So I went and spied for Mitzi to get doorman because you needed doorman. So I went to people at this other club to get them to come back to the Comedy Store in La Jolla. Recruit. And they found out I was spying, and a comic punched me in the face. Right? And I went back, and I thinking back at that, I have problems with it. Oh my God.
I like to defend young Bob.
Okay, go ahead.
You were put in a position of like basically like that a bunch of adults, right? Because Mitzi was in her what at this point? How old was Mitzi?
I don't know, 70s, maybe?
How old was Fred Burns?
50s.
Okay, these are people with, let's assume, fully formed brains who can impart wisdom on these young comics. Instead, they're, number one, requiring you to choose a team. Number two, preying on the fact that you have big dreams in comedy and making you actually like, what do you call it? Like
a pawn.
Yeah, like they're making you do their dirty work for them. All the while knowing that you're going to do anything to get to where you want to be, which is a comedian, right? So it's like, how old were you? 23?
25.
Okay. Well, still, like you probably
Your difference.
He's
What-
like 38.
In 2
He's
years,
like
come on.
38.
you're probably broke.
No money.
Yeah, no money. You probably were not doing well in life.
Well, no, because at that point, what happened was, Paulie and Mencia, I was opening for them on the road,
Yeah.
right? And also, Mitzi had made me a paid regular, right? And there was no one in San Diego at the time that was a paid regular.
I don't think that was Weasley, only because you went with the decision that you thought was best for your career. And we all have to prioritize ourselves at some point, even if it means hurting their feelings. Now, like, an apology down the road would have been like, hey, dude, that's kind of
They
fucked
both
up.
died.
So you never apologized.
No, they both died.
But did you make did you choose the correct team?
I chose the team to lead me to here. And if I feel like if I didn't make that decision, I'd still be in San Diego.
You chose.
I might be a better person, or I feel freer. I don't know, but I look back at it all the time and I go, is there any other option? And I didn't, because it's like I had no money, I had no power, and I went to the direction where I thought was gonna get me these opportunities. Now, it is. It's like ethically weird, and I feel like a weasel.
You're not the only one, though. It seems like everyone.
What would you have
weasel.
done?
Probably the same thing, because like you aren't screwing over their careers necessarily. They were already getting fired by Mitzi. They were already.
You're also
they were already stuck in San Diego. So
you're also not the sole reason why their business went under. Like, you were able to sense at that age that this was probably not going to take you somewhere, because something about it, was either on its way out, going down, and you were like, I'm going to take this ride instead, because this seems like
Yeah. I was the only comic down there also with that option. Like, if other comics had that option and they were regulars, and Mitzi had asked them, like, join the dark side, or the light, or whatever, I don't know what,
Just join, yeah.
join, I think that other people would have done that, but I was the only one given that opportunity, right? But the problem was I was still living at Fred's basement,
right.
so when I made that decision, I could hear them through the vents.
Yo, bro.
No, I really did. I'm not kidding you. That's why I moved to LA, because I remember hearing through the vents, that motherfucker, we're gonna fucking get that guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Talking about you.
about me,
Oh my god.
right? And I'm like laying there like late at night going, it was terrible. I remember I would get boils on my face. And I remember one time I was at the Panikin during that time, and my friend Alan Meadows from high school met me for coffee, and he goes, dude, you look like shit. I look like shit. I couldn't sleep. You know me. I'm so sensitive. I was like frazzled. I'm like, I think they're gonna kill me. I have no allies here, and that's when I decided. I think I called Mencia and I go, can you help me with money to get me to LA? I think he gave me a couple $100 to come up. I don't know, something like that. And I moved up, and I lived my friend Calista was in LA, but I slept in my truck in the Comedy Store parking lot for a couple of weeks.
Because you were scared.
That's when I moved up here, and that's when Jimmy Schubert
Gave you a sandwich.
gave me a sandwich. That's when that happened. But my point is that it was like fucking terrible. And then coming up here, I couldn't get anything going. You know what I mean? No money, nothing. It was so hard. I just can't believe I survived all that. But I still think about that decision. And I go, what could I have done differently? I don't think there is any other option. I was given a choice, and I made a decision. But, I don't know. What have you done?
Honestly, I don't think. I mean, in terms of auditioning, I feel early on there was some stuff where I probably didn't. I was available to help some people do self tapes, and I said, nah.